Hey, Frog Prince Rana here, and thank you for dropping by. A quick question for you. Suppose you go to someone's house and accidentally break something, say an iPad. Do you then A. pay for a replacement, or B. wiggle out of your responsibility, maybe with a defense like, well, they shouldn't have it available to break, or they have several more so it doesn't matter, or even they earn a lot so it is okay? Let me break it down for you. If you have chosen option B, then you are a garbage person. The only scenario it would be acceptable if the owner absolves you from that responsibility. That is it. You cannot absolve yourself with some quote-unquote clever reason you can think of. So is this entitlement or just pure ignorance/arrogance? Which brings us to the subject of today's video. Ronnie Koenig and her article at Pop Sugar titled, "If my kids break something at a store, I won't pay for it. Here is why." Now, the title is infuriating on its own, and the article itself doesn't get any better. So hold on to your hats while we go through the article and bask in the sheer privilege of this woman. The first line: as moms, we all know that going shopping with little kids in tow can be a recipe for disaster and destruction. So, is she saying it is a woman's issue? I have a daughter with my ex, and we separated when my sweet pea was only 2 years old. Now she's 11, and I try my utmost to be her friend. I took her out all the time, and never ever it became a recipe for disaster and destruction. Then again, to be fair, I didn't spend my time on phone while being out with my sweet pea, and managed to look after her, even during picking up items from the shop. It is not rock science. Well, moving on with the article. When my twins were babies, just getting out of the house and into a store felt like a small victory. So when we inevitably break something during our outings, I took it as par for the course. In retail, there is a name for the phenomena of goods lost in this manner: shrinkage. I guess I figured that since these are stores that I shop in frequently, a broken and cheap toy doesn't make much difference in the grand scheme of things. Now, while it is most probably true that in the grand scheme it doesn't make much difference, but it is not her call, is it? When we decide for others on what makes a big difference for them, we go down a slippery slope. What is the difference of stealing £1,000 from a company or £1,000,000? None whatsoever, regardless the turnover by that company. And it is only the company that can make that decision. Just imagine, if I break a cheap item at my corner shop and I think of shrinkage and decide that it is not a big deal, then my neighbor does the exact same thing, and then the next neighbor, and so on. Soon enough, the corner shop have lost every item. And wasn't our starting assumption was, it's not a big deal? Then exactly at which point did that assumption break down? Or do we still stick to our guns claiming it is not a big deal? I'm recently watching Walking Dead once again. In the episode now from season 6, Spencer tries to stop the Alexandrian from raiding the pantry of food. He has some nice dialogue with one being, "Doing this will start us down a road where nothing matters, where no one else matters." Now, it is not analogous to the matter in hand, but for some reason, it reminded me of this article. Back to Ronnie. But that doesn't mean I will outright steal. One time we got halfway down the street before I realized that one of the twins was holding an expensive bottle of Moroccan hair conditioner. Apparently, he had nicked it from the shelves when I wasn't looking. We went right back to the store and turned the bottle in. Thankfully, the cashier thought it was cute. This is the response I mostly encountered while we were out, which probably made it easier for me to ignore those items that we were breaking or using. What we were doing wasn't stealing, We're just being adorable, right? How entitled is that? Let's start from the end. No, you're not being adorable. You're being a Karen, and maybe a bad parent. I'm a little bit confused. Are we talking about a baby somehow managed to hold on to a bottle of Moroccan hair conditioner and she didn't notice it? Or are we talking about a child who picked up a bottle himself? Isn't it the time where the mom should be explaining to the child that it is not okay, instead of trying to justify it by calling it adorable? I taught my little one from as early as I could, the item is not ours until we pay for it. Even if it's a bar of candy, we cannot eat it until it has been paid for. As Ronnie refers to retail phenomena like shrinkage, maybe she should also know about consumer contracts, those between traders and consumers, and require agreement from at least two parties. When a shop displays goods in the store or display goods or services on their website or in a brochure, they're inviting the consumer to make an offer to buy. The shop then have the right to accept the offer or decline it. What this means is the consumer cannot legally insist that the shop to sell the goods, service or digital content if they choose not to. But my guess is Ronnie thinks herself to be above such law. Ronnie continues, "While my daughter's main items for pilfering are fruits and vegetables, now that my twins are older, they go for items they can actually break. The other day, when my son was helping me shop for groceries, he threw a jar of peanut butter into the cart with so much force that it broke. Yep, I put it back and took a new one." Funny thing is, she thinks of her conduct as a badge of honor. If you think that was cringy, there is more to follow. At this point, she talks about her husband, who actually sounds like a guy with a conscience. One who would pay for things that the kids broke on his watch. But the article is all about her justification. Recently, while at a large drugstore chain, my daughter kept playing with the baby bottle pop in the candy display while I checked out. "No, you're not getting that, put it back," I repeated, while frantically trying to complete our purchase. Behind us, a long line of impatient shoppers was growing. Then, just as we were leaving, she got the bottle open and it hit the ground, sending a cloud of pink sugar all over the carpet. With the evidence enveloping us, I quickly ushered her out of the store. In the end, I didn't pick up the broken item and hand it to the cashier out of a bit of embarrassment over our destruction. Isn't that just grand? Way to go, lady, for setting an example for your children. What you're teaching them is to run away from responsibility. Children can break stuff. They are young and may not know any better. But you're not young and you should know better. Furthermore, it is your responsibility as a parent to teach your kids right from wrong. She ends the article with, "And to be honest, my policy also depends on the size of a store. If we broke something in a small, independently owned business, I would be more likely to confess than if it was in a big box store that factors shrinkage into the cost of doing business. In the future, I'll probably still not pay for small items that get broken, but I'll try to make sure we're more careful when we shop." Ugh, bloody hell. Once again, this is not her decision to make. And from the story she told, she didn't say if those were in a big box store or not. In either way, it is just a horrible stance to take. The article ends with an editor's note. This piece was written by a Pop Sugar contributor and does not necessarily reflect the views of Pop Sugar Inc. I guess everyone has to cover their ass, right? Well, that will be all for this video. If you have enjoyed it, please do like and maybe even share it around. If you want to be super awesome, please consider subscribing to keep up with my new contents. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching. Wherever you are, Have a safe day. Signing off.